Good morning, guys. Welcome back to another coffee chit chat video. You already know the drill. Before we get started, I'm going to give you guys a little update on what's happening with this office space. All right, let's get into it. Spent all weekend painting. You can kind of see the color a lot better over here. It is like a midnight blue. I think it is so stunning. Turquoise, a little bit moody. I really hated how white these walls were, and I just wanted to darken the space up and just play a lot more with color. When there's no direct sunlight, this is kind of what it looks like. It looks like it's black. It's not. When you're actually here, you can see that it's still a blue color. At night, it is very dark, but we're gonna get the right lighting to like illuminate it well. We did a satin finish on all the trim and the doors so that it's easy to clean and dust. I started to prime these walls a little bit, but we need to get some more plastic tarps and tape so it's a little bit easier for us to paint because it started like splattering on here. Now, you guys already know that clearly my camera is dead. I don't know what it is. Like I'll film these videos and charge my camera and then I'll just forget to charge it again. But I'm gonna set up so we can get into today's video. And today we're gonna be talking about how you don't know how to live within your means. Sorry, had to be said. People keep asking me how I was able to buy my house at 24, and it's essentially just because I lived well below my means, and I generally like to live my life below my means. There might be periods of times where my expenses are a little bit higher than I expect, but I'm always able to find a way to like bounce back. So we're gonna talk about that and how you can reach and achieve any financial goal that you have if you're willing to put in the additional effort that's required, and if you're also willing to spend less than you make. Now, I'm gonna say a disclaimer because I don't want anyone to think that I'm being insensitive. Obviously, there's different situations. Like if you are literally just making enough to survive, you have to do what you have to do. And sometimes that means maxing out your credit card. I was there at one point in time in college. I paid for my own Invisalign myself because I had a lot of teeth issues. I was paying my own rent myself. I was working 3 jobs at Charlotte Russe, CVS, Macy's, and it was just enough for me to make my rent and sometimes not even. So I get it. Again, as I say on most videos in this channel, nothing is forever. Everything is momentary, and that's just a season that you're in your life right now. But if you're watching this video and you're in that situation, you will get out of it because you're determined to finding the information on how to. So go ahead and check out some videos on my page about like different ways you can make more money from starting your own business, contracting, your specific skill or service. But for the rest of you who like to use a firm to buy sneakers and clothes and hauls on Zara and all that, let's talk about how you can afford a house if you just learn to live within your means. All right. Give me a second to set up. We're working with a lot of different moving parts here. I'm happy at least that I can sit on the floor and film this video for you guys today. So I posted that I bought my second home, which I'm very, very grateful. And I'm even more grateful with the LA fires going on and the fact that my house is still standing. I give all the glory to God for just my home not being engulfed in the flames, and my heart is broken for all the families who have experienced that. I don't know what the California or the Los Angeles housing market's gonna look like going forward, so I think when you are applying the things that I'm talking about in this video, it will apply to certain housing markets and it will not apply to others. I think there's gonna be a large influx of people who are searching for homes, so the cost might be higher for another buyer who may have wanted to enter the California housing market. But that being said, I was asked on that initial video that I made, how did you buy your first home at 24? And the honest truth is, as I said at the beginning of this video, is I have always lived well below my means. When I came back from college, I decided to go to grad school, and while I was in grad school, I worked the entire time. I didn't want to forgo having any income because I didn't want to be behind financially against my own goals, not comparing myself to anybody in particular at all. So I kept my job, and while I was working in grad school, I had to pay some of my tuition. I got student loans for the other part of it, but I was living at home. So I was able to save a lot of my money. I did help my family sometimes, here and there, but I was able to like save a good amount of money. And I had a good salary. Working in regulatory affairs, I always say the salary is very competitive, especially if you live and work in California. I had to pay my student loans, which was really low. And at the time I had a car payment, which was $250 a month, but I upped it to $300 so I could pay it off a lot sooner. I have not had a car note since 2019, and we gonna keep it that way. Could I buy a new car right now? I could, but I don't think it's financially responsible. And a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, but you are a content creator and you have all these businesses. Why don't you get like a really nice car, blah, blah, blah. I honestly could, but I don't think it's a sound financial choice. And I think a lot of people in our generation are just making like stupid financial decisions. I see people on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram talking about how, oh my God, I'm driving my dream car and it's, a 2025 BMW or a 2025 Porsche. And that's fine. fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I think as long as you understand what your goals are, but I think a lot of people are setting their financial goals based on what they see other people doing. Just because you see your favorite influencer or your friend driving a nice car doesn't mean that you need to have that car right now, especially if your goal is to purchase a home. Everybody will have different financial goals. My goal was to save and buy a home. I wanted to buy a house before I was 25 or at 25. That was the goal that I set for myself, which is why I was so committed to living below my means. I lived at home instead of living in my own apartment. And when I finally did move out, I moved into my uncle's house for a little bit to buy myself additional time. And even after that, I don't know if you guys remember when I did a dating show with two of my friends, Kyyah and Faye. They're also here on YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Kyyah's actually had been creating content for a really long time. And I also interviewed her on this channel. If you go to like interviews or my older videos from like 2020, I did an interview with her. So I lived with her actually for 2 years and I was only paying $1,400 all inclusive. Like I had my own room. We lived in a 4-bedroom house with a huge backyard, beautiful kitchen, beautiful living room. I didn't have to furnish anything but my room. And now I could have gone and moved into a different apartment in LA and paid like $2,500, but I was able to save that additional $700 a month or so, or $800 a month living with her, you know? And even when I got like bonuses at work or I got like a salary increase, I didn't increase my lifestyle. I wasn't like, okay, now that my car's paid off and I'm making like an extra $20,000 a year, I'm gonna go and buy this fancy car or I'm gonna go and take this lavish vacation. I didn't start traveling like crazy for real until maybe 2021. Because before that, like when I did travel, and you can see all this content on this channel actually, or my other channel, Kyyah Abdul Archives, I used to stay in hostels. Now I don't stay in hostels anymore. I stay in nice hotels, but it wasn't always like that because it wasn't within my means to travel that way yet. But now everybody sees like, oh, this luxury travel, like if I travel, I have to stay in a 5-star hotel. I have to this, I have to that. You don't have to, but you're allowing other people's lives to affect your financial and saving goals. And that's the problem most people have when it comes to trying to purchase like a home or something like that. You just have to assess the content that you're taking in, assess who's influencing your decision making, and then like navigate from there. But I say all that to say, I lived with her for a while and I was still living within my means. I wasn't, doing anything extra. So I was able to save a good amount of money when I was living with her on top of that. And I just decided, okay, I think it's time and I'm ready to purchase a home. I went on Zillow and kind of just started exploring different states, different markets. And all the time, also, I was like, maybe I don't want to be in LA forever. Maybe I'll move somewhere else. Like, I don't really know. I have friends and family in so many different places. So let me explore everywhere. So I ended up finding a property that I really liked and I contacted the realtor. Got in contact with the realtor. She was so sweet, gave me so much advice, so much guidance. And she was like, I actually don't feel comfortable selling you this property because like this is wrong with it, that's wrong with it. She was very open and honest about what I should expect. And she was like, if you buy this property, you're probably gonna have to do X, Y, and Z in the future. And I just don't think you're in a place to do that. But I'm happy to represent you and show you a bunch of different other properties. From there, she became like my go-to person for all things. She went to all the open houses for me, sent me videos and pictures. And then eventually I went to the property myself and saw it and was like, oh my God, I love it. I put in an offer for the property, which was, I put 15% down. A lot of people think you have to put the full 20%. You actually don't. If you put less than 20% though, you might have to get mortgage insurance, but I'll talk about that later on. So I put 15% down. The other 5%, because I did save 20% for the property, but the other 5% went to random stuff like inspection fees and like just little things. Like there's closing costs associated as well that get tacked on. So that's what the other 5% went to. So I ended up having mortgage insurance, but after owning the property for like 2 years and doing some improvements on the home, I was able to get the mortgage insurance canceled. So now my mortgage is just pretty regular. I qualified with one lender who I found through the realtor, and that's what I recommend because realtors have different relationships and connections with people in the mortgage industry, and they may be able to help you get like a really great deal. So this specific realtor connected me with a mortgage lender that she was familiar with, and I just went straight through them and went through the qualification process while she was looking at other properties for me after that initial one kind of fell through. I wired the money to the escrow company at the time. I signed all the papers. It went very smooth, very quick. I would say the purchase process was probably 2 weeks from like inspections and up until closing. It really wasn't that long or stressful because I had a really good realtor who was educating me on each step of the way. And the thing is, you might meet a certain realtor on a property and you don't like them. You can contact another realtor. It's totally fine. You're not like legally binded with them. There are certain laws laws now that might require realtors to like sign an agreement with you. I don't know if it's different per state, but you'll just have to read into those requirements, or when you engage with a realtor, they'll let you know that information. Apart from that, there's nothing else really to it. I think when it came to saving my money, it was just being financially conscious and being financially sound. Like, I have my house in LA now, yes, but I have other goals and things that I'm saving for with my fiance. And so, you know, I could go all crazy and go all out and do something like financially extra, even though I already bought this property, but it just doesn't make sense to me right now because there's other things I want to do. And specifically, I'm saying stuff like, I keep mentioning cars because I hear, like, I've heard people before say, oh my God, I would love to buy a property, but they're also paying $1,000 for their car payment. That's the other thing too, credit. Debt, all your credit, all your debt goes into the purchase process, right? So if you just say hypothetically you make $100,000 a year, if you owe to your car, you have a car payment, you have a student loan payment, you have 5 credit cards that are all maxed out, all of that is going to decrease your spending power because they have to allocate that money to those debts before they qualify you for a specific purchase price of the property. I didn't have any additional income at that time from social media like that. All I really had was my full-time job, which was enough to qualify me at the time. But also keep in mind, I had virtually like no debt. So the more debt you have, the less spending power you have. Every state is different for what they qualify you for. There's so many different types of loans. There's jumbo loans in California. There's FHA loans, which is like, I think the interest is lower on an FHA loan or something like that, or I'm not sure, but there's like conventional loans. So when you talk to a mortgage lender, a good mortgage lender will explain all of these things to you. So it's not going to be as stressful. I would say as a first step, if you're looking and wanting to purchase a home right now, interest rates aren't that great. In 2025, they're not going down. In 2026, maybe, according to the Fed and mortgage companies. Right now, I think we're going to stay pretty firm at 6.5 to 7%, which is pretty high. But people are right when they advise you and say that you marry the house and you date the mortgage, because you can always requalify or refinance your mortgage later on to get your interest very low. Now, for my first house, the interest is like nothing. For my second house, it's a little bit more, but again, always can refinance later at a later date. Yeah, so the first step for purchasing a house right now would just be like understanding where you want to buy and how much it would cost, right? So start going on Zillow and realtor.com and kind of exploring like, okay, I make this much, and you can Google this too, like how much can I afford to buy a house in Wyoming if I make $100,000 a year? And it'll tell you. So let's just say you can get a house that's like $400,000. These are made up numbers, so just, okay. Let's just say you can get a house that's $400,000. If you live in Georgia, if you live in Montana, you live in Nashville, you live in Idaho, whatever, start looking at houses in that purchase price so you can kind of understand how much you need to save. Take 25% of that, or I would say 25, but take 20 to 25% of that purchase price and start saving. I would say even save more than that, maybe 30%, because you might have like an unexpected expense. If your home is not like a new build, there might be things that come up out of nowhere, like plumbing, AC, like you just really honestly never know. And then once you save that money, once you realize how much you have to save, start assessing your lifestyle. Ask yourself, like, can I cut back here? Do I have to spend money in this way? Is there anything that I can do additionally to increase my income? Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to pretend with you and say, like, you don't need to make more money. You can work with what you have. No, making more money makes a difference, obviously. But when you do start making more money, don't increase your expenses just because you have that extra cash. That's the problem. Stop over shopping. Stop going on Shein and Zara and Temu and buying a bunch of stuff you don't need. Stop going on social media, watching other people live their life, and you're like, oh my God, this person has this YSL bag, I have to have it. Quick story time for you. I know someone who was dating this guy. All he had in his savings account was $2,000. And the girl was like, oh, I want this specific YSL purse, $2,000. He's like, oh, this will be all the money I have. And she was like, okay, and horrible person for even But anyway, he ended up buying the purse for her. They ended up breaking up. He should have not made that purchase for her because he didn't have the money and it was way out of his means. You don't spend everything you have and then leave you with nothing, because if you can't pay your rent one day, what are you going to do? You spent it all on a purse. No. So those are the kind of things that I'm saying, like, don't be influenced or forced to buy a bunch of stuff that you don't need. Now, I know it's kind of like, okay, but you're a content creator and you not push products, but you encourage people to buy certain things. Yes, I do encourage people to buy certain things. Products that I love, products that I use every day, products that are possibly making your life better or improving some area of your life, whatever. Doesn't mean that you have to buy them immediately. You can wait. Assess your budget. Make sure it's in your budget. I have already decided this year I'm cutting back on my traveling because there's other things that I need to save for that are a higher priority for me. Those are the kind of things that you need to do to make sure that you're not overextending yourself financially. There's this guy Yusuf on TikTok who like helps people get out of like bad car loans, and they'll call him and be like, oh yeah, I'm $25,000 upside down on my car loan, but I really want this BMW, I really want this Range Rover, I really want this G-Wagon, can you get me in it? My credit score is 550. Wrong priorities. And you're probably seeing other people do that, so you feel like encouraged to do it. And I'm not gonna pretend like I don't get influence. I do. I see stuff and I'm like, oh my God, I have to have it. But then I have buyer's remorse and I'm like, oh, I really should return this because it's not something that I should be spending right now if I have other financial goals that are more important. I think we covered everything, and I think you guys kind of get my mindset when it comes to money. I talk a little bit about this in my book, The Prepared Graduate, about how I was just saving money at a certain point in time and working towards different goals that I have. So if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to read it. There's a link to the book on Amazon in the description box. If you have any additional questions on how I got my house when I was 24, leave comments down below, but this is generally the gist and generally the mindset that I had. I feel like you just have to be really hungry with reaching that goal if it's something that you want. The last thing I'll say is homeownership is not for everybody. There's nothing wrong with renting. You don't have to watch this video and feel like you're a failure if you don't buy a house. No, at all. Everybody has different financial goals. If it is your financial goal to purchase a home, in this video I've stated some things that you can do and ways you can shift your mindset. If you don't want to buy a home and you're watching this video because you feel like you need to, you don't have to. Doesn't mean you failed at anything. It means you just have different priorities, and that's okay because everybody will have different priorities. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and per usual, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.